We're getting started here at the Rocha Revolution. We have a big day coming up. Give people a few more minutes to get logged in here. Few more minutes, and then we're going to get started.
All right, Chuck, when's your next fishing trip?
Oh, I wouldn't have any idea what that is, but it could be in about 8 days.
Oh, man. And then the next question is, why didn't you invite me? Come on,
Is
man.
you once you get my age, you're running for Congress and shit. Like you got important stuff to do.
Oh, I love it.
I've got a client in the Keys. You'll love this story. And welcome everybody to the Rocha Revolution. We're honored today to be joined by my sister, Eva Lopez Chavez, who is the city councilwoman in Salt Lake City. Eva, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Chuck, and excited to talk to everybody about what's going on in Utah and what's going on with this new congressional race.
But before we do, let's talk about fishing because that's where we were starting to. And you should know
Mm-hmm.
that down in the Keys, you should know we'll talk about fishing because Eva is an avid fly fisherman. It's another thing that makes me love her. Um, Back in the day when I started fly fishing in the Keys, I met this captain named Steve Friedman. And then Steve started teaching me about the water and about water rights down there and the Okeechobee and the rivers. And long story short is about 10 years ago, we ran him for state rep. He had never run for office before, and he lost because it's a Trump district. It's a state rep district that just represents the Keys, everything from Key West to Homestead. But he stayed involved. He was really active in conservation. He was the president of the Captains Association with the Fishing Guides Association. And you'll be
Mm-hmm.
proud to know that last year, my firm and a few other folks got him elected to city council in
Woo!
Alamorada. And so
Oh, I love.
I'm going down to see him next weekend. And when I'm down to see him, we're going to do a little fishing together.
Oh, I love that. I'm jealous, man. You can't be saying those things around me.
Before we get into fishing, and we're got a whole topic around fishing, I think it's really good for my audience to know who you are. They know you're a city councilwoman. They know you're running for Congress because they probably all follow my social media. But tell us a little bit of your bio. Growing up, where'd you come from? How did you get to Utah?
Yeah, man. Well, listen, mom and dad, they met up at a baile, and like any other Mexican love story, they found out they were pregnant and they had me in Salt Lake City, Utah. But I'm the oldest daughter of Mexican immigrants, and my folks came out here because they wanted to work on our farms. They came out here to pick betabel, that's sugar beets, corn, potatoes, onions, and they're hardworking folk just looking for economic opportunity. And we know that story, but we don't know how hard the grind is. You know, we don't talk enough about the struggle to even get those opportunities. But as the oldest daughter of immigrants, you know, I have my family's back and was the first to attend college and graduate from the University of Utah in political science. But, you know, before I get into the whole bio and what my work background is, I tell folks all the time, I was like, as the children of immigrants, at a very young age, we are conscious. We are conscious of the world. We are conscious of bad policy, good policy. I was going to WIC trainings with my mom. That way I could learn how to take care of my little brother and little sisters. I was going to school and my mom was sitting right next to me. Imagine a kindergartner sitting down with their parent and teaching their parent how to speak English. I remember going to law offices and having to translate on behalf of my parents and being able to share some quick facts. You're 8 years old, 7 years old. What are you doing in a law office? And so we don't have the luxury of a normal childhood, but it's that very foundation that really has unintentionally or intentionally prepared me for policymaking and for helping lead the next generation through these times of trouble and crises. And, you know, I share that because I can talk about all the accolades and all the awards. Nothing's more important than being raised by a family that cares about familia, that cares about faith, and that cares about their elders and their children. And that's why I love my Latinidad, my Mexican heritage is we understand how to take how to take these foundations and build good policy, be good leaders. But we also understand the world that we're living in today, where many of our allies have never been exposed to the type of atrocities that ICE is committing. And unfortunately for us, or fortunately for us, we are best prepared to lead out on these issues today, even in places like Utah.
No, and I could not agree more. And I think that it says a lot about who you are and the values you bring to this congressional race. And so you grow up you go to work in Salt Lake City. Tell the folks who may not understand that you don't stand alone as a kid of an immigrant family in Salt Lake City, that there's a long history in Salt Lake City of Salt Lake
Mhm.
City accepting and welcoming immigrants. Is that true?
Oh, man, let me tell you a story. 1847, Mormon pioneers are being prosecuted from Missouri. They cross over the Rocky Mountains and end up in a place called Utah. At the time, it was part of the New Mexican territory. They came into Mexico. Utah's whole heritage is one of immigrants escaping prosecution and specifically religious prosecution. And they found their way over here. And long story short, I tell folks whether you're a Utahn that's ninth generation or you're someone like me that's first gen, it is actually foundational to the fabric. And it is laid out in the state's constitution that this is the land of immigrants. And it's something that, whether it's through our religious practices or just the families that you find here, it's very culturally inept in Utah. It's in our DNA here as Utahns to care about families and to care about issues regarding migration. I think this is one of the few states where you'll see a state extremism represented. You see a whole cohort of MAGA politicians representing the state. And at the same time, you see that they'll speak out on these issues carefully, but they want to push back too. They're just looking at the president and going, we don't want to make you mad because you're supposed to be on our side. But they want to speak out. And so I see the frustration and we see it reflected in the electorate. We can go to the data and we see that too.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get at. I think one of the things that I want to touch on is I think it's important for folks to know that you're a sitting city councilwoman, but that you're also under the age of 30. There's a lot of people that um, listen to this and listen to me talk about folks having the courage to run. Before we talk about you running currently in this primary, we'll get to why Utah won and how it happened and what the district's like. Let's take a step back and tell folks what was the motivation for somebody who had never run for public office.
Yeah.
I assume you were like 26 when you ran for city council. How did that come to be and how did you win?
Yeah. Man, a prayer, a dream, and a blessing by my grandma. I mean, seriously. I remember I was working at City Hall at 22 years old. I ran Mayor Mendenhall, that's the current Salt Lake City mayor's campaign. I was her political director. She asked me to transition on as her liaison and help with some policy advising. And I decided, I was like, I want to be boots on the ground. I believe in our institutions. I believe in reforming the parts of our institution that don't reflect all the people and the concerns that we are going through. And I quickly found myself in the middle of crises after crises and recognizing we have leaders today that are in paralysis, that don't have urgency or shared energy anymore to attribute to these solutions. So I finally said, you know what? Right now, Salt Lake City's in peril. We've got bad air quality. We have a shrinking Great Salt Lake. We have a lack of housing, and many people under the age of 30 and 35, heck, even 40, can't find housing, let alone home ownership opportunities. And we have concerns about livable wages. Fast forward in my career at 26, I said, you know what? I'm being told no so often. I need to just get in there and be my own boss in government. And I need to get in there and lead a group of people and facilitate these solutions because they're possible. We're seeing them reflected in other parts of the world, in other parts of our country, in other cities. I'm going, we don't even have to make this up. There's other policies that are duplicative, that are reforming our institutions and creating better representation because of it. So I ran on the promise of making sure that we create economic and environmental sustainability while prioritizing our working class families. I really believe inherently that the root of all the solutions we're looking for begin, start, and end with working class families. And that's the story that I brought up is unapologetically to say although a council member may not rewrite immigration policy, a council member that knows how immigration policy can interact with affordable housing, can interact with clean air or water quality, or even the way we repair roadways and thinking about redlining strategically. Those are ways we overcome and build more equitable societies and more economic opportunity for all people, regardless of your experience.
How many people, now that you've been elected to city council, do you represent in Salt Lake City?
Yeah, there's a total of 210,000 people that we make decisions on behalf as a cohort of 7. Independently, right now, I represent about 32,000 to 35,000, depending if you count the renters. Yeah. So
And
it's the
it
Denton's district.
and are all of those 37,000 and 200,000 all encompassed within Utah's new first congressional seat?
That's correct. They're all within the new congressional seat.
So what folks need to know at home is this, is that if you weren't following this, is that there was a court case where the congressional lines were challenged in Utah. And what
Mhm,
happened is the court came back and approved a map where it set aside a district that is anchored in Salt Lake City, and where that district used to be a 50-50 seat. They've made it way more Democratic to where it is now a Democrat plus 24, at least in the last presidential election. That's how it would have performed. And with that being said, that means that this is going to be about whoever wins the primary. There's
mhm,
lots of folks running because it's an open Democratic safe seat. Lots of folks are in the race. You have everything from the former moderate member of Congress to other folks that have gotten in from state reps and other folks. But this district is a district that is very urban. It's also got rural, but it encompasses all of the areas that currently Eva Lopez Chavez, the city councilwoman, is representing. Tell me
mhm.
about the decision to run for Congress.
Yeah. Well, Chuck, it really was one person that I decided to run for. And I sat down with myself and my family and I said, I have a grandma at home today that has no representation and no one willing to fight for her. And I really did make her a promise. I made her a promise when I was about 7 years old. And I said, Grandma, I'm going to buy us a house. You can move in with me. We were sharing a room at the time. And I said, and Grandma, or I call her Mama Chela, I was like, I'm gonna figure out how we can get you your citizenship one day. This is my way of fighting back. This is my way of also saying we don't have to wait for someone to decide who's good enough to be in our country. Anybody that's willing to start a family and put themselves to work and find the economic opportunities while simultaneously building community, in my opinion, there's nothing more American than that. And that's where I see my grandma and I see her story reflected in so many of us. You don't have to be an immigrant to understand that today, many of us face atrocities, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's being paid a livable wage or not, having access to healthcare and insurance. Heck, it's even the zip code that we live in. Sometimes you still have realtors that aren't willing to show different homes and other zip codes to people just because the color of your skin. And that is the America we still live in today.
Tell me about you've been now an announced candidate for Congress. You've got a launch video out there. You've put a team together. My team is super excited to be working with you since day one. Tell folks who may not be from Utah or may not be from Salt Lake City, as you've now traveled around the district, I know you're collecting signatures now.
Mhm.
Tell me some of the issues that people are pulling you to the side and telling you are the most important for this district.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you with the news, Chuck, of an ICE facility and transaction that took place just 24 hours ago, it quickly went from livable wages and clean air, things that we should be caring about, to the very survival of our community. This district has 26% Latinos that are registered active Democrats. This district, in my opinion, has one question to solve right now, and that is, will ICE be allowed in Utah? And if so, this district is preparing itself to send a representative that can voice the anger of the people that are facing the hostility of the rise of immigration and customs enforcement here in Salt Lake City. And as I've gone to West Valley, Kearns, Magna, Taylorsville, West Jordan, Midvale, Murray, cities that are right outside of Salt Lake City in the burbs, where all of our immigrants end up, where all of our Latino and Hispanic communities end up. They're angry because they want to focus on their hard work. They want to have conversations about how they can go and start businesses or buy their first homes or get their kids through college or afford better healthcare and insurance, but they can't even have those conversations or start them because they're in fear of the enforcement that's happening in Minnesota, and that's become the blueprint now on how to engage cities at the local level, let alone the extreme disrespect and violence perpetuated by this federal organization against the very neighbors that are just here trying to make ends meet. So
No,
that's the conversation that we're seeing on the ground right now. There's a lot of fear in Salt Lake right now.
while we'll do this again at the end. but let folks know the name of your website if they want to contribute or they want to sign up to volunteer, get signatures.
Yeah. Listen, folks, I love your support. And the biggest thing we can do as a campaign right now is prevent this ICE facility from further receiving entitlements or support. You can learn more about it at my website at Ava, EVA, for FOR, Utah, UTAH.com, avaforutah.com. We got a donate site. It'll pop up right away, so you can donate right there. We'll accept all types of donations as well as checks. The best thing you can do is get the word out. If you could repost, go to our socials, all the handles at Ava for Utah.
And I'd like to say, as somebody who helped make the ad, that unlike a lot of candidates, this one that I'm interviewing walks the walk because the ad was actually shot, written, and edited all by a group of badass immigrants and folks who have come here seeking a better life, who worked for me or volunteers with her, who live in Utah. And it's really proud to see when those things come to light because that's not normally how it works. And so I really appreciate you having the trust in us. As we think about this race developing, tell the folks what, I've already described there's 5 or 6 people running. 20% of this district's Latino. When you're saying, well, how can a Latino represent this district? It's exactly what I just described. Once you take that electorate and you slice it up, everybody gets that little piece. Can you imagine, especially in a time where Donald Trump and our federal government is weaponized armed ICE agents against a community to send a fighter to Washington, D.C., who comes from an immigrant community, who's a born fighter, and who's never taken any shit from anybody I've ever known. I think that's the real key here. But as you meet neighbors and friends in Utah, are you having conversations and getting a lot of energy? I know you are within the Latino community. What are you hearing in other communities?
Oh man, I got to tell you, with zero ad spend currently today, we have beat the whole trail of candidates in analytics. I mean, just from looking I geek out on this stuff too, Chuck. I love this stuff, and we're auditing it, and I'm going, damn, we are getting our marketing out there, and it's because people really see the problem, the crises that we all face nationally, and they see the solutions being proposed. First solution: hold the budget back. We don't need spending bills to go help, and I see our Democratic Congress people and caucuses coming together and calling for that now. There was a little bit of negotiation, but this what I'm saying is there is no negotiating with the Gestapo forces. There is no negotiating with this president and making sure that we stand ground. We can't have immigration reform or qualified amnesty or any policy solutions in place. You got to pull back the plug on Director Nome and all these ICE agents. And it's what I tell folks is working class people are being turned against each other. They're being offered money and immediate relief through these $50,000 bonuses in order to go antagonize and be violent against other communities. That's not American. That's not patriotic. Those are people just trying to survive as well. So we need to look at this as the potential to enable future prosecution post-Trump presidency. Chuck, I get asked all the time, how do you have hope? You're so young. You have all this energy. I'm like, man, besides the 6 cup of coffees and the espresso machine I use at home, I was like, let me tell you, besides my family, I have hope because at the end of this mess, we're all that's left behind to pick it up. So I want to go to Washington, not just pick a fight. I want to pick up the pieces left behind and reform what's worth reforming and abolish what needs to be abolished, like ICE.
You make me think about a Latina named Nanette Barragan, who used to be the Hispanic chairwoman in D.C. She was a city councilwoman in a small town in California, told she couldn't win a congressional race and beat the establishment to get elected to Congress. What do you think informs you specifically now that you understand how city governments work that would weaponize you to be a good congresswoman in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, I love this question because I love urban planning and I love our local ordinances. But I'm going to tell you something. When you direct federal funding away from states like Utah and into the hands of the municipalities that actually represent the folks, magic happens. I'm looking at how, here's a great example. HUD's cutting 30% of affordable housing. That's going to directly impact Salt Lake City, where 3,000 housing units that are either LIHTC, meaning low income housing with tax credits, or affordable housing is going to go offline because they're not being subsidized. All of a sudden, you just displaced 3,000 people that could end up homeless. So it's that type of thinking where you can take macro policy and macro appropriations and take them into the granular scope so that councilmen, mayors, commissioners, maybe it's even the nonprofits working on the ground can actually deploy those resources quickly, efficiently, and with the gravitas to help people.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to understand that Salt Lake City is just one city in this congressional race in Utah 1. And I've been to your district. I know that it's urban. I know that it's very Latino. I know that there's lots of youth and a lot of renters there.
Mhm.
Can you tell the folks about some of the other parts of the CD? What encompasses this? We're talking about 200 and something thousand people who represent in Salt Lake City, but also what are the other places that are represented in this new Utah's first congressional race?
Yeah, well, listen, if you haven't come to Utah, come on by. I'll give you a tour. Beautiful mountains, lots of beautiful rivers and creeks, and the most important thing is our Great Salt Lake. So geographically, we're in the west. It's a high arid desert. You're going to have a lot of dry air for those of you coming in from the east, but you're also going to see a lot of the symptoms that we're facing today. When you fly over the Great Salt Lake, you're going to immediately see, ooh, there's a lake drying up. What is that doing to the air quality? I think as we look into the other cities, and if you try to get into the mountains, you're going to see quickly we have freeways that intersect, and like many other parts of the country, are splitting the east and west side, creating not just redlining, but now all of a sudden zip codes that are disproportionately being underfunded or overfunded. You're starting to see development only on the east side, while the west side gets its, pardon my language, its ass handed to them on the daily. And you're gonna see very quickly that you see a lot of capitalists and those that are using debt and leverage and it maybe come from white collar jobs are gonna be living on the east side while the blue collar workers are on the west side with the immigrants and mixing in. So we see a lot of these divisions. And it's just so clear to me that this district is a perfect example of American policy failures. It's an example of what happens when you take Reaganomics and you insert all of that taxpayer money that we contribute to only support the wealthiest class of people and the corporations that are profiteering off the backs of every working class family that's just trying to get by.
Yep, and I think you're exactly right. I've got one more policy question before we dive into three fun questions, which is I know you've always been very pro labor. You've always been pro environment, pro conservation, and you've been an immigration activist because of where you come from and your personal story. Up and be what I know you're going to be a champion of holding ICE accountable. There's no doubt. And I know that that is an issue that sets you apart. What's an issue that you really love and care about that folks would be surprised that you want to lead on when you get to DC?
Yeah. The Colorado Compact is a very specialized niche policy issue specifically to the West. It's not just Utah. You got the upper states, you got Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and then you got the lower states. You've got California's in that. You got Nevada, and then you've got New Mexico. And what we're happening today is we talk about water resources, and I've toured every water facility, water district around the West. I used to work at a company that dealt with water districts, so I had a lot of opportunities to talk with them. And the reality of what's happening is that we need the Colorado River's water supply to feed the West. And so why this matters to me is it is at the intersection of every issue that matters in terms of air quality, conservation, home ownership, the health and well-being of individual people and families, and the work environment we create. It all starts and leads with water. And until we have a negotiated Colorado compact or whatever the outcome is, we don't have that promise or security in Utah. So, as niche as it is, it has everything to do with my fly fishing experience and also everything to do with how we live, breathe, and eat here in Utah. And it's something I really want to dig into. I've seen our Republican counterparts, they're trying to do the bipartisan environmental caucus. They're trying to have these conversations. I'm going to tell you today that if you take a trip out here, the first thing I'd be asking for is to have my progressive caucus come and meet and sail the Great Salt Lake. As somebody that loves to sail, I'll tell you right now, you can't circumnavigate that lake anymore. And it was bigger than the Great Lakes. That lake and its beauty has contributed to an amazing and diverse biosphere. There's a lot of waterfowl species out here that rely on it, as well as what we call our little shrimp that we feed for 80% of the world's fish farms right now. Our brine shrimp capacity it's in decline, so it'll directly have global effects, but more locally, again, what we're seeing is without that policy in place, we won't have watershed to negotiate or even to funnel back into the Great Salt Lake.
I appreciate that, and water is the lifeblood of the West, and I know you're in the middle of campaign mode, so I wanna respect your time. So the last questions will be a little less serious, but I think it helps folks expose who you are, and I like to ask this of everybody, and the first one is about food. We all grow up and we all think about that one meal that we love the most, and we love it when our mother or abuela or whoever may be cooking it. I wanna know your one go-to meal if you only could have one more meal left in your life.
Oh, Chuck, enchiladas michoacanas, with a little queso fresco on top, your carrots, your potatoes on the side, nice and crunchy, a little extra crunch. Mm, so good.
There you go. And then the last one is when we play baseball, and folks may not know you were a professional female football player at one time. Y'all should Google that. What would be your walk up song to the plate? What's the one song when you're at the gym in the morning that gets you going? I need to know what's your pump up song or your walk up song.
Ooh, that's a good one. Right now, it's "Running Up That Hill." You're running up that hill,
There you go.
running up that road. That one right now comes to mind, but I love a good rap song.
That's-
I was listening to Little Biggie the other day, so here we got some. It was all a dream. I
There
used to
we go.
work on a magazine. Yep.
I love it. For all of you listening, I want you to go to the website. I want you to donate. This sister's going to be the congresswoman from the Utah's first district. Eva, go ahead and give everybody your campaign website again and your socials.
Yeah, shout out to everyone watching. Go to avaforutah.com. That's EVAFORUTAH.com. Same with all the handles at Ava for Utah.
I've known this girl since she was 18. She's the real deal. Trust me. You want to get in the beginning of this one because she ain't going nowhere. Thank you, sister, and good luck. You're going to win this.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, everybody. See ya.
You're good. Bye bye.